I'm the incident commander responding to an incident on Anderson Street. I feel very confident I have the knowledge, skills, and abilities to effectively handle this incident. However, at this time I'm faced with some obstacles. I know it's 7:50 in the morning. I feel concerned about this due to traffic, people getting ready for work and school buses on the road, and possibly cooking elements of that sort going on. I'm also faced with the fact that I know there's a four-alarm fire going on in the city, and I have units responded to this incident unfamiliar with the area. They may be stuck in traffic, construction zones, school zones, and they're not familiar with this particular occupancy. En route, I'm going to make sure all units are responding, all units have acknowledged the dispatch that they're en route. I'm going to make sure I'm seatbelted in and I take the safest, most efficient route to the incident. I'm pulling my rip and run sheet to look for hydrants, units responding, which I know the units will likely be delayed and unfamiliar with this incident. Now, en route, I'm listening to the radio. I know dispatch has told me this incident may have started in a garage and we may have a burned occupant. This immediately is going to heighten my sense of alert, and I'm going to upgrade my alarm to include a hazmat unit, and I'm also going to upgrade my alarm to add at least 2 more EMS units because I already know I have a victim. So I need 2 more units, 1 to take care of my firefighters and 1 to take care of any other potential occupants or injuries there. Now, I know it's also very cold. It's 50 degrees. We have strong winds, 15 miles an hour from the east. So I'll make sure I arrive and I stage uphill and upwind. I'll take this into account for ventilation, fire spread, and fire tactics. I also am going to ask dispatch, did the call come from within the home, or was the call received via automatic alarm, some sort of fire alarm? I'm going to ask them if all the occupants are accounted for and out of the home. And I'm going to also make sure that occupants in the immediate area are notified. Now, on arrival, I'm going to confirm I have a conditions, actions, and needs report, and I'm going to confirm the actions my previous companies have taken. As per New Haven SOPs, I know that the initial company will catch a hydrant coming into this incident, and we do have hydrants in the area. We have a hydrant on Chevrolet and 4th Street, and we also have a hydrant on Anderson and 5th Street. So I'll confirm which hydrant they've caught, and they've laid in a 5-inch supply line. And per our SOPs, they should have pulled an 1 3/4 line. I'll confirm that's being operated from the unburned towards the burn. And in this case, if the fire is confirmed to be in the garage, I'll make sure they're coming from within the house. I'm going to reaffirm with dispatch that I'll be the incident commander. I'll be known as Anderson Street Command. I'm going to make sure that I'm 1.5 times away from the building on a corner. I will look at 3 sides of the building on approach. I'll stay in my vehicle. I'll name my command Anderson Street Command. We're going to go into command mode, offensive strategy. I'll put the green light on my car and the incident commander vest so everybody knows that I'll be the incident commander. We're going to be in offensive strategy. I'm going to make sure the general administration of the department's notified of this critical event, especially the fact that we have injuries, and I'm going to establish my command staff. I'll confirm I have a public information officer responding, and perhaps have an assistant public information officer to go to the hospital to be able to give media notifications there. We'll have a liaison officer to interface with outside agencies, and a safety officer will be in full bunker gear with full authority to stop any unsafe acts at any time. I've already done 3/4 of my 360, and I'll, as soon as possible, assign another crew to complete the Charlie side of the building, which I probably can't see up on my approach. Now, pulling into this incident, I know it's a multi-story residential, and I know there's other families living here, and I'll look into the type of construction. I'll look and see if any bells or whistles, alarms are going off, any kind of evacuations are going off. To that extent, I want to make sure that I contact the house head of the household, find out how many occupants are there. Is anybody sleeping? Anybody that's non-ambulatory and elderly people in the home? I'm looking for mailboxes. I'm looking for other signs that people live here. I'm looking for cars in the driveway, any types of panic. Now, as a good incident commander, it's very important that I have my resources lined up. At this time, I have a full first alarm, but I've augmented that with a hazmat unit due to a car fire in a garage. I'm hoping that there isn't any fuel spill or anything like that going on. And I've also augmented it with 2 additional medical units because I know I have an injury coming into the incident right now. Now, I'm going to go ahead and, just to be on the safe side, is tone out a second alarm. We're going to stage that in the parking lot that's located on 5th and Chevrolet. And I feel that's far enough out of the way so there will be uphill and upwind. They won't be in the smoke area that's coming in. We're going to give them a backup tactical channel. We're going to assign a staging area manager, which by default will be the first arriving company on that alarm. And I'll give that manager the authority to call additional units if we ever run out of units. I'll use those units to rotate. It's very cold. I want to make sure my units are not affected by the elements. Now, in addition, I have to call other resources. I need police to set up a traffic perimeter. We're going to go 2 blocks in all areas, allowing for inbound and outbound units only, and a clear direction to the hospital as my burn victim will have to be transported to the burn center. I'm going to call the utility companies, gas, electric, and water, bring them on scene, and they'll report to the liaison officer and control utilities as needed. In addition, if we need barricades for setting up a media staging area, we'll call Public Works, and I'll make sure we have a safe area for those people to do their work, those people being from the media. In addition, I'm going to call for a fire investigator, and I'm going to make sure fire investigators notified early on of this incident, and we protect the incident as best as possible. Now, a good incident commander must identify his incident priorities, and my number one incident priority is the life safety of my firefighters, the civilians immediately involved in the incident, and those in the explosion on either side, and then all of the bystanders. So we'll be setting up a scene tape area to keep all the bystanders away, and we'll be doing an accountability report. We'll assign a level 1 accountability for all of my firefighters. We'll make sure we have hot, warm, and cold zones established. Now, we're going to stabilize this incident. The way we're going to do that is by safely mitigating the fire, locating, confining, and extinguishing it to the object or room of origin. And we're going to make sure that we conserve property. We're not going to bust doors or break windows. We'll open them. We'll move, remove, and cover items as necessary, and make sure we mitigate the smoke by controlling the smoke movement. We're also going to make sure we preserve evidence. We definitely manage the economic impact. We want these citizens back home. We don't want anybody to be removed from their home, especially the neighbors. And we want to make sure that we're monitoring any economic and environmental impacts overall as well. Now, in order to do that, I need to identify my strategic goals. Number 1 is to rescue, so I need to identify if there's anybody else in the home, and I need to assign crews to that. This could be things like laddering, opening doors. We also need to monitor exposures. In this case, I'm most concerned about any occupant above the fire and on either side of the fire. We're going to confine and extinguish with an 1 3/4 line with a foam adapter placed in the line for Class B foam, and then we'll consider Class A foam at some point during the overhaul phase. We're going to start salvage very early on. We're going to move any objects that we can, close doors, make sure that the smoke is being mitigated and moved in the direction we want to move it. We're going to overhaul once visible fire is contained. Now, at this point, I'd like to assign my units, and here will be the assignments in order, and I'll make sure units are being tracked on my command board at all time. I'm maintaining span of control by effective use of groups and divisions. We're going to start with a fire attack group, and that'll be supervised by Engine 1. They're going to catch a 5-inch supply line and then pull an 1 3/4 line, working from unburned towards burn, coming in through the house to the garage. Engine 2 will pull a backup line of equal or greater diameter. They're going to make sure the street is left open and enough room for truck 1 to get through. And these units will work in unison as my fire attack group, conducting primary searches along the way. We're going to be working from the closest and most endangered areas and working our way out. If primary search yields victims, we're going to have a medical group. The medical group is being established by Medic 1, and the 2 additional medic units I've called. They're going to be up pulling up wind, and through liaisoning with police, they're going to have a clear means of egress to be able to transport to the hospital. Engine 3 will be used to look for exposures. They're going to start above the fire, and then on either side of the fire, we're going to make sure we have an evacuation group that's getting all of the people out. And we're going to set up an area of safe refuge due to the fact that it's 50 degrees early in the morning. Many of the people may not be properly clothed and robed at this time. Truck 1 will handle all truck work. They're going to do forcible entry if needed, utility control, and then they're going to vent, which will be coordinated with the fire attack group and Engine 1. We have multiple options for ventilation, and in this type of occupancy, we're usually going to use some sort of hydraulic or positive pressure, as we don't want to be cutting holes in the roof, especially if it's multi-story. We have Squad 1. Squad 1 will set up a rapid intervention team. They'll be near the command post, monitoring all activities. The officer will do a 360 and soften the target with ladders and things of that sort. Now, if we get a fire attack done with the primary line, we'll use minimal use of water, and we'll secure the area in order to allow the fire investigator to come do his work. If not, we have a backup line in place. We can augment and put more water on the fire. If my searches are clear, once all occupants are accounted for, I will have one of the second alarm units conduct a secondary search so that they don't follow the same patterns. Once all of this is done, we're going to start demobilization. We'll do an onboard debriefing, check for injuries, make sure the citizens are accounted for, give a media report, make sure all equipment and trucks are restaffed, and we'll get the Red Cross Salvation Army to help the citizens, and I'll transfer command to an on-arriving lower level unit. Back at the station, we'll do a post-incident analysis next shift at 7:30. We're going to make sure that all acknowledgments and awards are given, and we'll do all reports. I feel very confident this would be the best way to manage this incident on Anderson Street.